Hey, y'all. Happy October 29th, 2023. Welcome back to The Real Talk with Cass and Kai. This is episode number 5, and today's topic is brought to you by Kai.
So, hi everyone. I just wanted to let you know this is
Cass.
And I'm Kai once again. So, today's topic, just for the podcast, is going to be called Cut Those Ties.
Oh, okay. Cut those ties.
So,
let's talk about it.
So, the reason why I was just, why this came to mind was so the year's about to end. And, you know, like, there was probably some stuff that you went through this past year, or people you met, or situations that have happened.
Toxic people, toxic habits.
And literally, pretty much anything, all the above. So now I was just thinking to myself the other day, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go through, like, my social media and just cut off those toxic people that make me either feel used or make me feel not valued for my things I have brought to those people.
That's good.
So I was just like, you know, I think that'll be a good topic to talk about. Like, and I think that relates into all life pretty much. Like, no matter if it's work, friend, school, it all ties into life together. So I was like, I think it's just a good topic to talk about. So
I agree.
So
I agree. Because it's not just cutting ties with people, toxic people, but also toxic habits, things,
like literally for
thoughts.
Any and everything.
Right.
So yeah, I was just
that's great.
I was just like, I don't know, it was just something that I thought of, and I was like, you know what, I don't know, I just think it's a good thing to talk about, and especially in today's day and age. I don't know, I was thinking, it was just leading into everything, like, in society today, like, in my day and age, like, for my generation,
which is
Gen Z, so which is, like, I think 2000.
We'll have to pop that up again.
So yeah, no, I was just thinking about, like, just everything that's going on in today's society, like, when it comes to, like, love and relationships and just, like, all types of that nature, like, and by all types,
relationships,
like, pretty
right?
much everything, like, between, like, your parents, between your mom, your cousins, your aunties, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. Yeah. I just think it ties into everything. So yeah, that's pretty much where I was coming off of, and I was just like, I don't know, it's just weird, like, it's just weird. When I was thinking about it, I was just like, in today's day and age, no one takes anything seriously, if you really think about it. Like, when it comes to, like, love, like, that's the one thing that came to mind.
Not to cut you off, but I was just thinking, like, did anything happen with a friend or anything? Did something prompt basically that thought? I feel like I'm the type of person that always is kind of running that type of filter through you know, all of my relationships and everything. I'm just a reflective person, and I am always having those type of conversations with myself. So did something happen, or?
I mean, of course, like, throughout this past year, yes, I have lost many friends. Yes, I have gained people. Yes, I've gained friends. Yes, I've got closer to people that I've known before. It was just more so, I was just sitting, and then someone that I know told me that I tend to not, it was like kind of like self-reflecting, like, this person was telling me, he was like, you tend to reply, like, you reply back, but you don't text first. So I was like, okay, I know what you mean by that. Like, I guess I'm the type of person, I can lag sometimes on my friends or whoever I'm talking to.
Wow, that's really interesting. So that was one of your friends' feedback about you, but let's be honest, I asked to little momage right there, you know, like if that came from somewhere, just because I feel like specifically over the past year, I've heard you give feedback for other, you know, some of your other friends with something very similar like that. Like, so basically, I feel like I'm putting out more than what I'm getting back.
Yeah, so after he told me that, I was just like, wow, like, okay, like, you are right. And for me, I'm not the type of person to be like, I'm not going to be, I'm kind of petty in a sense, so I'm not gonna tell the person that they're right there,
We
right
love
there
a
to
petty
their
person
face.
that admits that they're petty.
So,
Okay,
like, I was
that's
like,
hella petty.
I mean, I was like, I guess you're right in a sense. Like, okay, I guess you're right. Like, I do need to work on some stuff. But then it just tied into like, oh, like, what is it? What in the past have I done to run people away? If it was friends, if it was someone I was potentially.
But so were they saying it to you like, I don't feel like I can continue on with this friendship with you? Or was it just like, just some feedback? I'm kind of feeling some type of way. Like, I'm not trying to end our friendship, or.
Yeah, it was just like that. It was just like a friendly, like, oh,
Feedback.
like, like when you meet someone and then they're like, oh, or like when you know someone and you ask them like, oh, well, like, what was your first thought of me, like when you first met me? Mm-hmm. It was kind of like that conversation where I was like, is there like anything you think I need to work on as like a friend or just like as a person, like you're trying to get to know?
Okay, so you asked for it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that's good to know too, because how do we feel about sorry, I always feel like I'm out of the frame. You be tapping me like, Ma, come in. Join me.
It looks a certain way on camera, so.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I know, I'm sorry.
It'll come back.
No, but I was just going to say it ties into what you were saying just a second ago, where it's like how you put out so much into someone, but they like, or what was it that you said?
Yeah, when you feel like you're putting more out than what you're getting back.
Exactly, what she said. That's what was happening with a few of my like friendships back then, because I always feel like I'm the type of person to very much be like, oh, if someone ever needs something from me, they can call me and I'll give them my advice, my best advice, even though I'm not a therapist or anything. I'm just like a best friend. Mm-hmm. So when it ties into that, I was just like, okay. So like early on in the year, I was like going through like that with a few friends, losing a few friends. So I was like a little emotional during that time too, because I was like, why do I feel like I'm always giving so much to someone but no one's giving back to me? So it was just like that type of time.
Okay.
Like that's how everything cut those ties, tying to pretty much everything.
Right. Okay. So guys, when we do have these conversations with ourselves, and we are in a place where we can not just have these conversations but be honest with ourselves, like, you know what, I feel like I need to reassess my relationship with this person because they're not giving what I'm giving, right? And they're not picking up what I'm putting down, however you want to say it, right? Do you with all of those instances, do you say something to them? Like, it's
kind of hard to be like, so like for me, I'm not the type of person, so at the end of the day, I'm not the type of person to argue. I don't like to argue, but if it comes time to argue, I will argue. I'm just not the type of person. So like when they were telling me stuff like that, it was typically like through text, and like, texts really don't have emotions over the phone.
Yeah, but you said I don't want to argue though, right? So just hearing that, I wouldn't necessarily just assume that saying that would cause an argument. And then you also said that those were through text, as if, would it have escalated more if it was on the telephone or in person?
Low key, probably.
Right?
Most
no,
likely,
like
yes.
high key, right?
Yes, high key it would.
Okay.
So that's why typically, that's why I'm the type of person now, if just starting now as of recently, I just been more in touch with okay, if I feel like I'm not being valued enough by the person, instantly I'm just cutting them off. And of course I'm not just gonna do it out the blue. I'm just gonna let the person know, be like, hey, honestly, I'm not feeling whatever is going on here.
Okay, so you are gonna let them know.
Yeah.
Okay, because that was my next question.
Back then I used to.
Are we just cutting off, no warning? Or are we having a conversation?
Typically now I'm saying I would rather have a conversation about it instead of just instantly cutting someone off. And I've learned that through multiple sources. So back then. So yeah. So I think
as far as at least trying to have a conversation or letting the other party know what's going on before, or
how I'm feeling, instead of just instantly
cutting them off. That's good.
That's how I used to handle things. So,
and I think that it's not a one size fits all. So when I asked do we warn someone? Do we have a conversation and like, hey, I'm feeling some type of way. I just want to let you know I'm pretty much going to be bowing out of this relationship. And these are the reasons, or are we just cutting people off? I think that it depends on the case. Speaking for myself, there's been relationships that are very close to me that in general consensus, most people would say that they're not cutting those people off, kind of like no matter what they do, because, you know, they're just that close to them, or they would hope that they would be that close to them, right? And so like some of those people that I have cut ties with, I did not give warning to, when we're being honest, to be like.
But sometimes with that, like, honestly, like, for me, I'm like, this ties into me being petty. So like, if I feel like if I feel as if like you're
back in it.
Yeah, like if I feel as if you're wrong, and like, I don't know, everyone has their perspective, like, oh, like, you were wrong in this situation, or the other parties be like, no, you were wrong.
And that's where the argument comes in,
like,
right?
right then and there, like, right while you're saying it, because I'm not for it.
And how you mentioned earlier, like, I don't want to argue. That's kind of where that would come in.
Yeah,
but that's
exactly.
why I'm just using my personal experiences, and really, honestly, recently, because in my healing journey, I've really focused more on cutting ties with certain people, things, and just vibes, right? Because it just, I understand that to become who I want to become and to keep evolving and keep healing, it just, everybody that's been with you can't go with you, right? I'm sure a lot of us have heard that before. So with certain people that are on the outside, or in general looked at as people that you wouldn't cut off, that I didn't necessarily reach out and be like, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm cutting ties. Because I kind of feel like I said, case by case, there's a lot of things when I think when you get to a point where you are like, I'm cutting ties with somebody that's been here with me for so long that I never thought I would have to cut ties with, I just think that it is unnecessary to really rehash things and have to remind another grown, sane person what they've done. I feel like now, on this side of the situation, years into the healing and growth and evolving journey for myself, I've realized how much my silence and my solitude and my disconnection from those toxic relationships has really helped me, and how much I see how, as people, we want answers, right? So if you do just cut people off, people are going to be like, hey, you know, like, that's not fair. I didn't get my closure. Like, and yes, to a certain extent, I think case by case, you do, I don't even want to say deserve, like they deserve that answer, that closure, because I think that in itself, even feeling like I didn't get closure, you didn't tell me what the problem was to try and fix it. I think that when someone's at that point, there's already key indicators and red flags. Like, do we really need to talk about that?
Like, I was low-key waiting for her to say something, but
let's get there.
So I was gonna say, typically when it comes to you cutting someone off because of like whatever's happening, like for me, I get it from her. She, like, I'm the type, if you do something, I'm always going to remember it no matter what.
Yeah.
So, and
like, forgive but not forget.
Yeah, exactly. I just think there's no, like, I'm not just going to cut you off out of the blue. Like, if I'm having a conversation with someone and they're like, so this is just all of a sudden. No, it wasn't all of a sudden. It was because of something you done that I remembered, and sometimes it's hard to talk to someone about it because you don't know how to approach them with it. Like, it's
let's be honest. I think a lot of people are not living their life from a place or a point of view where they're even open to receiving that type of feedback. Mm-hmm. That's why I said, do you let somebody know that they're about to get cut off? Because that's why you said too, like, I don't want to argue. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's like, if I'm already have come to the conclusion that I am going to cut you off, I don't even really want to have too much talk about it, or really I don't feel like I need to reach out to you and tell you what's going on, because I know naturally as humans, that person is going to be like, well, what did I do? I need case in point, actual bullet points of things that I did. And I think that in itself is very unevolved, very toxic. And there's nothing that I can do, that you can do, that anyone can do for that person. That's what sometimes they have to learn from being cut off and not having an answer and not having clear bullet points as to certain times and instances that brought that about, having to cut ties. Right?
Now, I was going to say, like how you were just saying, sometimes I think it depends on the person too. Like sometimes, like for me,
case
like,
by case.
yeah, and sometimes like if someone were to ask me like, oh, like what is it that I did? I just think I'm probably gonna give you like a little list, but you have to think about it like it's all gonna tie together. It's not just gonna be like one specific thing. How it's gonna like be like, oh, okay, you did this, this, and that, but they all connect into one big thing.
Obviously, it's your ways. Like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So it's just probably your ways. Your ways and my ways don't mesh. There's a disconnect right there. There's a miscommunication right there. And that's where one person or another is going to be like, hey, that crosses my boundaries. In my own personal healing and evolution journey, that's not gonna work for me. So that's why it is a case by case, because honestly, like somebody who is newer to my life that I don't have a very close connection and bond with, it's probably easier for me to have that type of feedback conversation if they ask for it, to tell them why exactly I feel like I need to cut ties.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably easier to have that conversation with somebody that you don't know, because somebody that you do have long-standing ties with, a bond with, history with, and then when somebody evolves to a point where they're like, you know what, where I'm going, I know that I can't continue like this. That's a different conversation. That's where when you mention argument, and there could be a lot of things because there's emotions evolved.
Yeah, I was gonna say feelings go into everything too, especially if you know, like, it's different when you known someone for like 6 years versus 3 months. Like that's
right.
Like, that's a really big difference. So it's like,
but and Kai knows what I'm talking about. We've already talked, off camera and off and away about the situation, and that he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so. Yeah, it was just really interesting. Today I told Kai for him to pick the topic, and he chose this. And I think that's a lot of growth right there, because, this time last year and a couple years before, we couldn't openly talk about this because it does so closely affect us. And, unfortunately, but that is very true. You guys might be able to relate. Part of me cutting off people who have always been with us also included them being cut off from my children too. So, like I said, it's a case by case basis. I still don't feel that I have to necessarily sit down and talk to these people with a list of reasons why, and instances and actual occurrences of what, when I felt some type of way, and just accumulation of those times, taking a little piece out to the point where I felt like, just a boundary that I had to create and a tie that I had to cut.
I was also going to say, because it's like, I don't want it to like make it seem like we're talking about like all bad things. This is also a good thing too, because if you really think about it, you're like, okay, I'm cutting off this certain thing, this certain habit, this certain person to benefit me. So it's like, you're evolving and you're learning more about yourself every single day. So it's like, we don't want it to make it seem like, oh, like cut those ties.
No, it's not all bad.
Do what you need to do, and it's also a good thing too, because some people need it. Like some people are just stuck in situations where they're like, I can't do this, or like I don't know how to talk about it, or I don't know how to cut this person off. You just have to do it. Like it's at the end of the day, you just have to do it.
Well, you said it. It all starts with self. It's so within, so without. You have to be open with yourself to even have these conversations. So like a couple episodes ago, we said, how well do you know you? Like, what things are you doing every day, right? Because one thing is everything. So what are you doing every day to uplift yourself, to keep yourself uplifted, to keep your mental space right, to feed yourself? Because I know for me, I'm looked at as a person that sheds light, that lifts others up.
Same.
But sometimes it's like, like there's those reels. It's like, but who does that for you? Like who listens to you? Who checks on you, right? And we've all seen it, like people in the media, famous people close to us. Everything looks so great on the outside. They're always that light for other people. And then, God forbid they take their life, and there's a whole nother side of their life that no one even knew about.
We're not gonna say just take
right.
their life, but like something happened where they're not
spectrum.
here,
right?
Or they're not there anymore, or like they're not there the next day,
right?
So
or even sometimes that takes people out mentally and emotionally, right? And that's tough. So I think it just starts with you.
It's such a lot of self-care and a lot of self valuation. Not
evaluation.
Evaluation, yeah.
Exactly. It's that self-talk. It's being able to talk real with yourself first, right? To even come to a point where you're like, something's wrong. Why do I always feel like this around those people? Why there's a pulling, there's a tugging at your spirit. There's just something is not right. But that comes from you being in a place where you're ready to evolve, because it isn't all light and sunshine and happiness. It's not. I think for me, most of my healing journey, specifically in the last 5-10 years, has been painful, has been sad, has been dark, has been tough, and has been me, myself, and I, right? But then I'm also like, I prayed for this. I know that God has already prepared me for it, and I'm more excited and holding on to who I'm going to be on the other side. And I know that I'm always going to make it out to the other side. So it's definitely a self thing. I'm not encouraging you guys to cut ties if that's not where you're at.
And it just ran away. I completely forgot.
I'm
what
sorry.
I was going to say.
It
wasn't your fault now.
Let it come back. But this is good. I mean, it's honest. It's honest.
Oh, it came back. So I was gonna say, there's honestly so many, like, you may hear us talking about like, oh, like this is how we handled it, or like that's how we do it. There's so many ways you can handle it. Like for me now, in my state of mind and what I'm going through with who's in my life, instead of me instantly being like, okay, like, and it's a whole preference if you want to do it the way I said it or the way that I'm going to talk about it, is you can easily just technically confront the person in like a calm, collected way, being like, hey, I just think we should talk about how I've been feeling lately. I just feel like as if I'm not feeling valued, or I just feel like it's getting to the point where I'm about to cut you off. And then that, like, if the person's on the same energy as you, they'll be like, oh, like, let's talk about it. Hopefully. You never know. But I'm just saying, like, there's so many ways, like, you can come.
I think that's really emotionally mature.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really emotionally mature. Like I was going to say earlier that typically the other person's going to feel like they deserve, or even if you're talking about this in a general setting, most people's consensus or feedback is going to be that you should let somebody know so that they can get better for the future too.
And it's also better for them too, also, if you really think about it.
Yeah. But then you also said, I don't want to argue, which is very true. Like I said, I would kind of pose it as a question, how you said that, or even like, I'm bringing it up, put it on yourself. Like, I'm feeling some type of way, and I just want to let you know because I honor you and our relationship enough to say something to you, right?
Yeah. And
give you a chance to speak for yourself, right? And to actually be open and be like, yeah, I do want to know what are those things, because I definitely value our relationship too. And if it's not going to be anymore, I would like to know why.
And also, sorry to cut you off. I was going to say, just like as like a thought that just came, instead, like for me, I just been doing a whole lot of self work recently. So one thing I've told myself is when the problem
Sorry,
comes...
y'all, our dog is going crazy.
Saying when the problem comes to face with it right then and there. Like, don't wait, because that's one thing I've learned, especially when it comes to
that's good.
Those conversations, is like, don't wait. Like, if
You know,
something happens, just go ahead and just talk about it right then and there.
Yeah, that's so good, because I was gonna say how you just said that you should reach out to the person if it's a pretty valuable, somewhat valuable relationship. You should reach out to them and create the conversation, or create a safe space to have the conversation, kind of see where that person's at. And how I said to him that is a very emotionally mature. I feel like it's just like we said, it's obviously coming from you, from the inside. This is you in your life just being like, I'm trying to figure me out, right? And then that self-assessment, evaluation, then is also obviously going to be turned to everything, every area, every relationship. And I think that's really emotionally mature.
So, yeah, I just thought it was a good topic to talk about this week. So
I think that's great. That's great. And the way that we kind of want to tie that into the generations is because, again, I am a millennial, mid-'80s. You are Gen Z, right? Early 2000s. So from my generation's perspective, and even my parents' generation, Gen X, I believe, and baby boomers, they have said a lot about my generation, my era specifically, and your generation, right? That we can come off as very entitled, very...
I don't think it's entitled. I would just say
disconnected.
I think it's very much in tune with yourself. Very much. And I mean, to others, it might come off.
He said what he said. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And for me, it's like I as I get older, I realize how my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation can form that opinion, because I have seen the evolution of technology in your generation, and being an 80s baby and a 90s kid, right? It's totally different. I've seen the evolution. So I can understand how they feel like that a lot more as I get older. But what I really appreciate about your generation, and the generations, of the future, is that you guys are very direct. You are very much in your feelings in a way that you're like, this doesn't feel good. I don't like that it's felt like this for generations. I don't like that we've done that not the best way in my family, right? I don't like that. So yeah. I feel like you guys are very progressive. Change comes from that. These conversations start, and I just think it's so great. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it was a good way to talk about this episode and just the topic. And we have our things that we always talk about, starting with the podcast. So our weekly obsession. So I think I'll go first. What have I been into recently? So I am kind of a gamer kid a little bit. Okay. So the two most recent games that I've been into have recently been Mortal Kombat 1. Yes. Spider-Man. Come on. 2, I think. Spider-Man 2. I need to get a PS5 because I need to play both of those as soon as possible. So hopefully I'll get that soon. So yeah, I just been really into those games, and I love like the whole graphics and like the whole storylines. I love me a good storyline on a game because that keeps me on my edge of the seat, and that'll literally keep me occupied for like a good amount of hours. But yeah, that's my weekly obsession. Mother, what is yours?
My weekly obsession... I've been really into other podcasts. I'm always like diving into my YouTube, but I've been diving into TikTok as well. Again,
the podcast is like the main thing you've been into recently.
Yeah, like other podcasters. I'm just really interested to see how people kind of like transition, and how the flow of their conversations are, the content. I love it. And I am watching the movie Old Dads. And I love it. I haven't got to watch it. I love it. So. I love their depiction of my generation. It's about millennials, right? So these dads are millennials, my era, and it's just showing their point of view being a millennial from my era, and then just dealing with like some Gen Z and the new generations, and just the difference in thinking and how the generations just kind of come into play in our everyday lives. So it's really funny. It's a funny movie. It's very interesting. I see a lot of truths to it, and I think it's awesome because it's what we're here to talk about, and I think it's awesome. So that's it for me.
So yeah. So we just wanted to say thank you guys so much for
Thank you
everything
so
that's
much.
been happening.
So much
you guys
love.
Have been, I don't know what's been going on, but we're about to hit 100 subscribers on YouTube from you guys. Our views have been going up a lot on Instagram and YouTube Shorts. TikTok. We're growing every single day. So honestly, we want to say thank you, of course, to all you guys.
Much.
Make sure you guys keep liking,
Vibe
subscribing,
Tribe
commenting,
to the world.
and just let us know in the comments your guys' feed on anything we said, or like how you guys handle anything. So yeah, pretty much just engage with us. Let us know how you feel. Let's talk about it and everything. So yeah.
I also want to pop up here our personal pages too, because I've mentioned it a couple times. I am in business for myself with my wife in the financial services industry. We take an educational approach. I'm on a mission. We're on a mission to reach one, teach one, connect with more people. So I also posted on my personal page, Boss Queen Cass, about the generations that we're going to pop up here again for reference, and kind of I want to start a conversation because I'm talking to people about their finances, and really I see how their thinking about finances is not just a generational thing, but it's literally like a generational thing in their family tree, right? So I want to know from you guys, like, how do you think that affects the way that we think about money, the way that we just are in our everyday lives? So definitely let's talk about it. This is a great conversation, y'all.
So we love today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. We'll see you guys next Sunday. And just so you guys know, one last time, this is
Cass.
And I am Kai. And thank you for listening to The Real Talk with Kaz and Kai. And we will see you guys
so
soon.
much. Bye.
Bye.
Big love, Vibe Tribe.
See y'all later.